Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Kim. I am a social worker with the VA National Caregiver Support Line. We will be starting right at noon, but we just wanted to welcome all of you who have already joined us. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see a chat option. So if you have questions along the way, or even now, or if you want to say hello, you can type right in there. Your name will appear as you registered.
Thank you so much, Kim. We're so honored to be able to partner with the Caregiver Support Line to bring you this webinar today. And I hope all of you are already familiar with 0 to 3 and the many resources that we've developed over the years for military-connected families. If you're not familiar with 0 to 3, 0 to 3 is a nonprofit that's been around for over 40 years. Jennifer, if you could advance the slide. What we do is we take research and translate it into tools for policymakers and professionals to use in supporting really the best possible outcomes for our young children. And we also develop trainings like this one and resources like our app, Babies on the Homefront, for parents just like you. We're so pleased that you were able to join us today. As Kim mentioned, we really want to invite you to ask questions today by using the chat feature you see to the right of your screen. For those of you who are using the mobile device GoToWebinar on your phone, I'm not sure where the chat feature is, I apologize. But for those of you who are on a computer, there is a section on the right that has, there's two things. One says questions, and then one says chat. So if you could put your questions and your comments and everything in the one that says chat, it's very helpful because then it's big and we can see it. And the chat on the questions, it's harder for us to see all of them. So really encourage you to do that. So, okay, we're ready. Let's talk about parenting. What we notice many parents do is working really hard to be as perfect of parents as they possibly can be. They want their kids to be the best they possibly can be, and they're working really hard to do everything to make sure that happens. Is that you? Are you trying to be a super parent? Well, guess what? What we say to you is that we want you to know that there's no such thing as a perfect parent. No. And in fact, studies show that striving for perfection in parenting is so impossible that it actually can drive up your stress level. Instead, what we want to do is invite you to be, as Dr. Donald Winnicott said, the good enough parent. This is what we want to chat about today. What your youngest child needs from you to be the very best selves they can. And remember that mistakes are allowed because there's no such thing as a perfect parent. Today's learning objectives, what we hope to cover in our time together, includes a focus on you and how you are with strategies for your own self-regulation and self-care. We'll also be discussing how we might respond to those challenging behaviors we see in our little ones, and spend some time sharing resources that 0 to 3 has developed with you, our veteran families, in mind. Now, I know some of you have multiple age children. I saw someone who has ranging from 12 years old all the way down to 3. We have others that have little ones, 12-month-olds, 22-month-olds. So hopefully this will help answer. And we also are going to share in the end some resources for those of you who have school-age children. First, we're going to talk about how you are is as important as what you do. Have you ever had one of those days where, you're late for an appointment? It seems like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and you're barely keeping it together, and you put on that fake smile and you say, "Come on, Timmy, get in your car seat, we have to go." And of course, this is the day that Timmy throws himself on the floor of the car and screams a blood-curdling, "No!" And you're going, "Why today? Why today? It's already a crazy day." Well, believe it or not, your child can sense how you are. Yep, your body language, the tone of your voice, the tension that you carry in your body. Well, your child's going to respond to that just as much as he responds to your words. Yes, so that's why we say how you are is as important as what you do. Self-care is so important to parenting. All the medical appointments that you have on top of your usual work and home chores, and then you throw in the demands of parenting and you say, what are you talking about, Julia? I don't have time for self-care. Or, you know what, I'll worry about me after I finish taking care of everybody else. Well, what we ask you to do is make self-care a priority for your child's sake. So really, what do we mean by self-care? Well, it certainly doesn't mean you walk around with a smile on your face all the time as if you don't have a care in the world, even as you're trying so hard to take care of everyone. Let's take a look at self-care by really looking at what it is not. Self-care should not be something that adds to your stress. It isn't something you do only when you feel you can't take it anymore. Instead, what self-care is the way you purposefully think about making sure that you never run out of fuel. Like a car, you have to maintain it, not just put gas in it or occasionally do an oil change, but you really have to think about the entire car. It's checking the tires, adding water and coolant, changing the windshield wipers occasionally, occasionally buying new tires, topping off the fluids regularly. All those things you do to make sure your car runs correctly. The same is true for you. Self-care isn't just one thing. It's not just going to sleep at a certain time at night, but really it's the whole package of strategies that you do to promote your own ability, not just to get through the day, but to really thrive, even in the face of adversity. It's understanding that you're going to have those lows, the stress, those tough challenges. They're a part of life, but you have to balance that to make sure that those needed energizers, those things that refuel you and sustain you, are also there so that you can weather the storms. So what are some of the ways that you make self-care a part of your regular routine? What do you do to help make sure that you keep your engine running smoothly? So I really would like to encourage you to find the word chat, click on it, and type in some of the things that you do for self-care on a regular basis. Maybe you go fishing, maybe you wait to do the dishes until the morning when you've had a full day and you're just too tired to face them. Maybe you read, maybe you do physical fitness, PT, and get out. So what are some of the things that you do for your own self-care to make sure that you're constantly making sure you're taking care of your entire car, not just the gas? Go ahead and type some of those in the chat. Why is your self-care so important? Well, it's because your child doesn't have the ability to calm down or, as my dad used to say, knock it off. That's right. A child who's less than 3 doesn't have that ability yet. They're not born with the ability to calm themselves down. So that's the reason why we are so concerned with it. I want to make sure no one has chatted some of your strategies. Let's see. Someone said yoga helps them to recenter. I think that's a great strategy, yoga. So I think that if we do that on a regular basis, it can really help you to be refueled, and it helps you physically and mentally and emotionally too if we do it on a regular basis. So that's a great suggestion. So if you have any others, right now most of you are typing into the question pod. So I'm going to encourage you to move over to the chat pod to see what you can find for some of your suggestions. Someone else said that they like using essential oils. They find that very soothing for themselves. So the chat pod, I wonder if all of the, those of you who are on mobile devices, if there's only a question pod and not a chat pod. So I'm going to try and read these as well. Mindful meditation twice a day. That's a great suggestion. Great suggestion. So go ahead and try either the question pod or the chat pod. Either one will be fine, and we'll find you. So again, so why is your self-care so important? So we're going to talk a little bit about how our babies' brains develop. Our brains have this amazing system called the autonomic nervous system. It has two parts. The first part is the sympathetic nervous system, and that's something we're born with. It kind of is our body's ability to respond to a need, our system that fires us up. Some people call this our fight, flight, or freeze system because it helps to keep us safe. You know, we respond to threats or perceived danger because this system kind of helps us to be alert. So, you know, like you're driving down the road or you're feeling just fine, and then out of the corner of your eye, you see a child dart into the road and your brain screams, "Watch out!" And your autonomic system kicks in. So think about everything that your body does when this happens. Your heart rate speeds up. Your digestive system stops. It doesn't process whatever's in your tummy. Every part of your body is on alert. Your body may freeze like a new fawn trying to like make sure nobody sees it, or it may fight and want to fight back, or it may want to run away, but that part gets alert and starts thinking, what can I do? Well, this high alert system, babies are born with that. That's something that babies know. How many of you have heard what a baby does when a baby's hungry? What does it do? It screams loudly and cries, right? It says, feed me, feed me. So babies have this ability to let us know that they're in need of something. But the second part, this is the part that baby doesn't develop at birth, and in fact won't have a good enough system until they're between 3 and 5 years old. And that's their parasympathetic nervous system. It's the part of the body that realizes, you know what, the danger's over, and we're going to be okay. So we can slow down our heart, we can get it back to normal, we can recharge up our digestive tract, we can help our nerves calm down. Babies need their caregivers to help them calm. So in essence, for the first 3 years of a baby's life, they have to borrow their parents' calm. If you're not taking care of yourself, you won't have any calm to borrow. And then you end up with a very dysregulated baby and a very dysregulated parent. And both of you are feeding off each other's feelings of distress. We'll take a real quick review of this, what I just shared, by looking at the bullets that go with this on the slide. First of all, babies are born, Jennifer, if you would click, babies are born with the well-developed parasympathetic nervous system. The next one, babies slowly develop their ability to calm over time. And this usually isn't on track until they're 3 to 5 years, which is the last bullet. So actually, I know some 20-year-olds who still don't have the ability completely to calm themselves. So they really need to borrow their calm of their caregiver when they're feeling dysregulated. And so as a parent, that's something that you really want to pay attention to. The next slide, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video with you. Video sound doesn't work very well, so we're going to share the video and I'm going to try and narrate it for you to help you to understand what's going on. What I want you to watch is how baby watches her mom, how she pays attention to what her mom is doing and responds based on the feedback she's getting from her mom. And are we having technical? No, there we go. So this is the still phase experiment by Dr. Ed Tronick. And what he did is first he asked mom and baby to play as they normally do. And you can see this is the beautiful dance between mother and child. And daddies and babies do it too. They communicate, they look, baby might point somewhere, and what does parent do but turn and look and see where baby's pointing. They play, they're interacting, they're connected. They have this shared communication, this shared experience. And then Dr. Tronick asks mom to stop and just make her whole face very still. Show no emotion at all, not positive, not negative. And I want you to watch what baby's reaction is. Baby goes, what? Wait, what happened to mom? And then baby tries every trick she can think of to try and get mom re-engaged. Because I know if I smile at mom, she'll smile back. Nope. How about if I point? She'll look. Nope, that's not working. And she goes, what the heck is going on here? And she actually says, hey, hold me. No. And she might screech. And here you can't hear it, but she makes a high-pitched screech. Come on, mom, we'll clap, we'll play. Come on, mom, let's get engaged here. And mom is not engaging, and it actually within 2 minutes, baby starts to sense this is not, something's wrong. And baby will actually become dysregulated. She looks away because she cannot look at her mom this way. It's like, it's too much for me to take in. And she will actually start to lose her posture, and she starts to cry and saying, this is not what I expect. Something's wrong here. Now, the nice thing is because mom and baby have this beautiful relationship, look how quickly the repair happens. Right back, baby's calm because she can borrow mom's calm, and she's able to re-engage. She's regulated and ready to go and approach the world. So your child is an emotional sponge, and your child actually pays attention to what you're doing, what your state is, and when you're out of sorts, baby may become out of sorts too, because again, they're reading their cues from you. This is why we say, as much as you say, oh, I don't have time to take care of me, why it's so important for you to take care of you. Many of the challenging behaviors you see in your child may be a result of your child actually doing things in response to the tension they're feeling in you. So it's something to really kind of key in on all the time. Am I okay? What's going on with me? Especially with dealing with the added pressures of medical appointments and trying to figure out what's going on with your physical body and your emotional reactions to your physical body. Those are something that we want to pay attention to. And I don't want you to think that every behavior a child has will be solved by you being able to keep a positive mood and a smile on your face all the time. First of all, that's just impossible. No one can sustain that. So no, that's not what we're saying. We're just saying that we have to always be aware of the impact we have on babies. I remember when my baby was born, and I didn't want her to cry. I was all worried about her crying, but I figured I had to leave her sometimes, and sometimes babies cry. So it wasn't so much the fact that my child was feeling dysregulated and crying, because crying will happen, tantruming will happen. Your child will have episodes of different things that you see on the list here. What matters is the repair. How do we respond to that child when they're dysregulated? How do we respond to their feelings in a way that helps them to learn the ability to calm themselves and then choose the appropriate behavior for the situation? And we want to be able to honor every emotion a child has, because there's no such thing as a bad emotion either. So what we're going to suggest to you, because we've come to know so much about child development and especially how babies' brains go, is that our babies become their very best selves if we help them learn how to regulate their emotions. Now, it's really important that we remember that there's no such thing as a bad emotion. There's those that we prefer to have, like happiness, joy, peace, giddiness, silliness. And there are also those emotions that we find a little more challenging, like sadness, anger, frustration, anxiety. But if we help our children learn how to regulate their emotions, what follows is also the ability to behave in ways that are healthy and socially acceptable. It also, this ability to regulate emotions is tied to doing better in school, and also the ability to self-regulate. Adults who have this ability as a young child report that they have happier and healthier relationships as adults. Babies and toddlers are much more complicated than dogs or our other beloved pets in the animal kingdom, and things that we can't just learn behaviors through consequences for a bad behavior and a reward for a good behavior. What we really want to do is understand how important our relationship is with them. And that's why we talk about using relationship-based behavior management. Babies need to know that someone adores them and is their prime cheerleader. And when they know this, they'll do almost anything to keep that caregiver's approval. And being your child's cheerleader also means that you, as your child's parent, know your baby better than anyone else. This relationship, this ability for your child to feel safe and secure with you, this is where your child's developing resilience comes from. But what do we do when our children exhibit those oh so challenging behaviors? Well, it helps us when we remember and are able to figure out where that behavior is coming from. It's important to remember that the behaviors that these little ones are doing are our baby's ways of speaking to us. We have to really try to listen to what the behavior is telling us, and then we can act. So let's take a look at how we address these challenging behaviors from our little ones. So first, the step one is to stop and find your calm. Remember that what we said, that your child needs to borrow your calm? Well, when your child is dysregulated, if they're hitting or biting or crying or throwing a tantrum or refusing something or just out of sorts, the first thing you have to do is really stop yourself and breathe and find your calm. There are several people who say they do some meditation and some breathing and that kind of thing as a part of their self-care. This really comes in handy if you practice this, finding your calm. Just you're feeling like, how could you? Okay, wait, I have to breathe. I have to take this pause and make sure I'm okay. We find that we're on automatic pilot so much just to get through the day. So sometimes this is the hardest step. This is the hardest thing to do. But it's also the important first step, because your child will only be able to achieve the level of calm that you are. So unless you let them cry themselves out and stop due to pure exhaustion, they're going to only be able to match the level of calm that you are. And guess what? You're human, right? So if you need to take a few minutes to calm, take them. Make sure your baby's in a safe place, like a baby-proof space, like a crib, and then do what you need to do to calm yourself. Sing a song, meditate, splash cold water on your face, take 10 deep breaths, play your favorite tune and dance to it. Once you're regulated, then you're ready for step two. So step two is to be a feelings detective. Now you get to be creative. Trying to figure out what in the world is going on for your child, right? So you take a look at the behavior from your child's perspective, not from yours, but from your child's perspective. Are there any environmental issues going on? Any new noises, bright lights, any new people that they're not used to? And then also, are there any physiological stuff going on? Reasons why baby might be tired or hungry or wet? Are there tempting things around your child that your child can't have, like bright things to touch or cool buttons and dials to play with? Or are there situational issues? Is your child feeling your attention? Take a minute and try to figure out what your child's behavior is saying to you. Then you're ready for step three. The next step may actually surprise you. Step three is to help your child regulate. Before you can help your child learn the appropriate way to behave and the appropriate way of communicating all of their big feelings, they first have to be in a calm, regulated place. Trying to help them learn their lesson while they're anxious or crying or throwing a tantrum the size of Texas just won't work. And here's why. When your child's in a dysregulated state, they're using the part of the brain called the amygdala, and that autonomic nervous system kicks in, that fight, flight, or freeze part, the danger part. And so you need to help your child calm down and that parasympathetic nervous system to kick in, to be able to get the part of the brain that can both reason and remember things to work. So the amygdala reacts to what's going on, or it's the emotional center of the brain. It doesn't think through, I'm going to get a reward if I do this, or I'm going to have a consequence if I do that. They just have the emotion. So if you want to get to the thinking part of your child's brain, you first have to help them calm down. They need your help with this, right? Once they are calm and they can regulate, then their prefrontal cortex, or their thinking part of the brain, works. All the lectures and scolding and threatening with frightening consequences that you might say to your child when they're in the middle of a tantrum won't register. So you have to get out your calm and let your child have some, so that you are both emotionally regulated. And then now you're ready for step 4. So I know some of you might have been worried that we weren't going to get to setting limits, that we're just going to calm our child and that was it. But no, step 4 is really important. That's introducing your limits based on your child's developmental age. Your child needs boundaries. They help a child to feel safe. And you need to help your child understand what she can and cannot do. That is one of the big responsibilities of being a parent. What this looks like will vary based on your child's temperament and your child's developmental age, as well as your values as a parent. So it'll be a little different for each child in your home. Maybe not the rules, but how you help your child learn to accept those rules or those limits will vary based on your child. So we have an app, Babies on the Homefront, which Jennifer Novak will tell you about more in a minute. But in this app, we actually have guidance both in helping your child learn how to regulate their emotions and on helping your child learn to accept limits. I suggest checking these out. It stresses knowing your child's developmental age and then ways of experiencing the world, and that your response to them is very consistent. Sometimes we make changes in our home because we understand that a young child just doesn't have the ability to remember all the rules. For example, we place fragile things up high, so where a child can't reach it, because guess what? A 10-month-old cannot remember, no, you can't touch this vase. That just makes us happier as parents. So baby-proof your home. Sometimes we have to be really consistent in correcting. So for example, we have a pet, and you may have to repeatedly say to your young toddler, I know you're excited to play with Puppy, but that hurts Puppy. We pet Puppy nice like this, gentle. And we always try to remember how we can name those feelings like excited or angry or sad, and then show our child what they can do, not just what they can't do. That's how they learn best. So let's do a couple quick examples of this. So the next slide. This is something that you can find on our 0 to 3 webpage. And in fact, if you can look, the link is probably too long for you to type, but you can just go onto our 0to3.org website and type in challenging behaviors, and you'll find a wealth of information there. But a couple examples just to kind of help you think this through. One of these here is the last one on here. If your child tells a lie to try to get out of trouble, right? Like saying, she didn't take a cookie, and you know she did. You know she did. So your self-check is, well, you know that lying is a normal developmental phase. Young children don't really fully appreciate the meaning or consequence of lying, and calling them out on it is not a useful approach and can actually lead to more lying. So that's a fact. And so remembering developmental age of your child, that your child isn't at a point where they really understand the concept of lying. So then what we do is we go to the next block, which is validate your child's feeling. Go straight to the issue and avoid getting in the power struggle. You don't want to say, did you take that cookie? Did you take that cookie? You know they did. So you say, you wanted a cookie. I get that. You love cookies. But the rule is you have to ask me before taking them from the kitchen. I know it's hard when you want something and you can't have it. You can choose an apple slice instead. So you're helping your child understand that there's a limit without shaming the child, but actually getting your point across about the rules. The rule will be really focused on. And you then joint solve. Let your child know that when she has a problem like wanting a cookie, that she can come to you. It's like, if you want a cookie, you come to me and talk to me, and then we'll work it out together and problem solve. But it's not time for a cookie. We might find something else for you. But you need to work with me, and so they're learning how to problem solve too. So that's the whole goal, is really helping a child. Now this might look different for a 7-year-old, right? Because they understand the concept of lying. But a 2-year-old doesn't understand the concept of lying. So you're trying to help them learn the role. And so that's the difference. You're starting the process when they're young to understand it, and so that as they get older, they'll be able to problem solve, and they won't have to sneak and take the cookie. They'll know to come to mama and daddy and ask. So let's talk about understanding child development. Just a couple other tips to help you think about setting limits for young children. You may have heard of timeouts, for example. Researchers are really mixed on the effectiveness of timeouts for children who are under the age of 3. So we're talking about infants, 1-year-olds, and 2-year-olds before they turn 3. What they find that works better at this age are time-ins. So kind of first of all, preemptive strikes work really well, where you notice a child is looking like they're starting to get dysregulated, that you stop the behavior and move them, redirect them to another behavior before they get out of control. That always is the best. But if you do need to stop and regulate, take a break, well, if you stop together and go together to the place, to stop and think about what's going on, and let's calm together, let's breathe. That little break or a time in with you're with them as you're taking a break in the behavior, shouldn't last more than in minutes as the age of the child. So if a child is 2 years old, then it can be 2 minutes. If a child is 3 years old, then it's 3 minutes. One of the things that's a little bit different than when I was first learning behavior management techniques. This is relationship behavior management. So one of the things is really understanding that when we're talking about under 3, we're really not talking about time-ins and time-outs as a way of punishing your child. Because remember, their ability to really remember and think about rules is only starting to come online. So what you're really doing is teaching them how to self-regulate, and then teaching them about limits. So it shouldn't be used as a punishment. And you should really know your child. So even if your child is 4 or 5, if being alone is really frightening for your child, especially, for instance, if their parent has left on multiple deployments and now is back, but they're always worried about being abandoned because they've had separations from their parent, or they've had a frightening experience that being alone is scary for them, then you really want to think about leaving your child all by themselves in a timeout, because you actually can do more harm than good. So what you're trying to do is create a break in the undesirable behavior, and you're trying to set a limit. So if you're actually adding to a feeling of dysregulation, your child will remember that and not the lesson you're aiming for. So in reality, punishment just doesn't work well at this age. Children under the age of 3 are not able to stop and think about how they can get under your skin. They're simply trying to get their needs met. So your job is to help them understand the socially acceptable way to get their needs met. And your child will learn most by watching what you do and by what you say. So we call that modeling. Many of you may say, well, I was spanked when I was that age and I turned out just fine. Well, I agree, spanking doesn't necessarily scar a child for life unless it's excessive or abusive. But if your goal is to help your child learn how to be their best self, then you might want to rethink about using punishment at this age. It doesn't teach your child about a desired behavior. It teaches a child what they can't do, and it teaches your child to be afraid of you. So At this age, infancy through toddlerhood, children only learn to be afraid of you because their brain isn't developed to remember the lesson. So it just heightens their dysregulation. So punishment is not discipline. What we really want to do is discipline our children. And discipline means to teach. One other quick reminder is there will be times when you and your baby are just not attuned. There'll be times when you're dysregulated. Hello, you're human. So these are opportunities to teach your child and letting her know that big people get upset too. I'm sorry I yelled at you. Mommy has a meeting. She's thinking about it. So I didn't think about what I was saying and doing. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. But first, I'm going to take a couple big breaths to help myself calm down. You want to take them with me? Okay. Okay. Now mommy is calmer. So mommy has a big meeting and she's thinking a lot about that. And I know I seem like I'm upset at you, but I'm not. I'm really just thinking really hard about my meeting. You can help me by finishing your breakfast and letting me help you get ready. So it's really communicating what's happening and reassuring your child that it's not their fault when you become dysregulated. Or how about even, I'm sorry, today daddy just doesn't have time. I'm worried about my meeting. I need you to get ready so I can get you to childcare. I know you like to dress yourself, and this might upset you, but I need to make sure we leave on time, so I'm going to pick you up now and I'm going to get you dressed. And I know you're crying because you don't want me to do it. You want to do it yourself, but today I need to do it for you so we can be on time. So again, sometimes we have to take that route and it's okay, but let's communicate about it, help your child know it isn't their fault, help them understand what's going on. So always holding in mind your child. So we want to value our quality time to connect with your child, having some opportunities, at least 15 to 20 minutes a day where you let your child take the lead in the play and let them help you, guide you and tell you what to do. We want to stay current on your child's development and what to expect next. We want to be curious about the needs and the lens of your child. That every child is different. You can't, all the kids in your same family, you might have 4 kids and they might all be seeing the world slightly different because of their temperament and because of their sensitivities. We want to recognize that all behavior has meaning. Even little infants, even little newborns will look away from you when they're overstimulated or will close their eyes when they're overstimulated. And then they'll open them again when they're ready or look back at you when they're ready to re-engage. They already are telling us with their behavior. So we help our children when we have empathy for our children and their feelings. And you know your child best, and you are the expert on your child. Experts like me who study this stuff, I don't know your child. You know your child. And so it's up to you to kind of try to figure out what's going on for your child. We also want to maintain consistent roles to the best extent possible. I think that all of the things on here kind of make sense considering all the factors that might influence both you and your child. Always identify the feelings that your child is expressing and then offer safe ways for your child to express their feelings. Sometimes the behaviors we get most concerned about is when they're excited and doing things that are dangerous, and they start to cry when we stop that. So showing them how to handle their excitement as well as their anger, all of those are really important. Answering questions at your child's developmental level, and most of all, having fun together, having fun. So I'd like to turn it over now to my colleague, Jennifer. And Jennifer's going to spend some time sharing some resources with you today. So Jennifer?
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to walk you through some of the resources that are available through 0 to 3. Again, so I'm Jennifer Novak, and I work with Julia Yuri on the Military Family Projects team here at 0 to 3. And we're really excited to share with you some of the things that we've developed in recent years that would be especially helpful for your family. The first that we want to talk about was made possible by USAA, and this is an app called Babies on the Homefront. So over the next few slides, I'm just going to walk you through what's included in the app and some of the things that you can expect if you download it, helpful tips and other things to be aware of. All right, so the first thing, again, is Babies on the Homefront. This is a free app that is available both through the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So no matter what type of device you have, it is available on mobile. This is free, and it is available in the App Store now. You can find it by searching just Babies on the Homefront. And if you download the current version of the app, just know that if you are a Spanish speaker, that it will auto display in Spanish. If you're an English speaker, it will auto display in English. At this time, those are the only two languages that we have in the app, but it is designed for multilingual families as well. Again, this is made possible by USAA. We have an original version of the app that was created several years ago, funded by Robert R. McCormick Foundation. Our current new release of 2.0 adds quite a few new features in addition to the original app's tips and tricks library, and I'll walk you through what those are now. So probably one of the most helpful things that you can know about for the app is that it includes a library of tips and strategies, and these can be sorted if you create an account by the age of your child, and then also by something called status. So we have articles that are specifically written for veterans, for those with a deployed parent, for those who are returning home soon, things like that. The different categories include, I know it's hard to see, we do have a category on behavior tips, a category on playtime, a category on parental and caregiver self-care, and then also a section called Help Me Grow, which is a new addition to the app with this newest release, which includes approximately 100 articles. It's a lot of information on different developmental milestones for children and how parents can support them during those transitions, no matter if they're home or not. So for example, one of the articles we have is, playing with me at my level. And we also have articles on playing with me even when you aren't at home. So really just trying to think about all of the different environments that military families might be in which they can continue to engage and effectively parent their children. You'll see on the screen that right now it has the article listing. We're actually working on another mini update to the app, which should be released soon. We don't have an exact date yet. It's going to create a much prettier user interface. It'll also allow you to browse the tips and strategies library of the app without creating an account. So if that's the only portion of the app that you want to explore, you don't have to necessarily set up a profile. However, if you do, you'll see in a few minutes what the other features that you'll have access to are. And we've designed the articles to be as short and easy to read as possible. And there are a number of articles that are also video, your YouTube videos. So going in, we also include getting more information button. Right now you can see it's really far down in the lower left-hand side. If you click on that link within the app, it directs you to an associated article in the 0 to 3 webpage with more in-depth information about that particular topic. We also have a life preserver icon with the words getting help next to it in each article. And this provides you with additional information about assistance from Military One Source and also a link to the Veterans Crisis Line as well. So again, current version of the app, you do have to create a profile. Soon you'll have the capacity to download it and view tips and strategies without doing so. However, if you do that, you won't have access to some of the other features that I'll walk you through now. So whenever you do create an account, you can create a family account and then actually add the children that you have in your family. So we don't ask for identifying information aside from whatever name you want to give the child. And then we do ask for a month and a year of birth. And the reason for that is because if the app knows the age of your child, you can filter the articles so that it automatically displays those that have been tagged to the appropriate age of the children that you've selected. So for example, if you, in here, if we select Jackie, who was born, I believe it says January 2018, then whenever we filter articles by Jackie, it will display those with, you know, for articles that are associated for children that are between like 12 and 15 months of age. Right? You can also add a days left counter. And again, not necessary, but if you want to utilize the app to share with your child how much time until a major event, not necessarily a deployment or a return home, but any days left counter that you want to utilize that for, you can. We also have in the app this secure messaging system. And while we know that there's lots of messaging systems out there, a lot of them are associated with the requirement to have a social media profile attached, or it isn't connected to all these other capacities that we have. So we added this messaging with a co-parent feature. So what you can do is whenever you create a family profile, you can actually add a co-parent. And when they accept that invitation, you'll both be grouped into this chat, the secure, again, private chat where you can share messages back and forth. Part of the messaging system includes these graphic emojis that we've created that are larger in size, and something that we hope that you can use to, you know, send to children whenever you aren't at home so that they know that you're keeping them in mind. This also includes private family cloud storage for photos and videos. So another individual that you can add to your account is someone called a caregiver. Co-parents have access to the messaging system and the private family cloud storage, but you can also add caregivers to the account. So we define this as individuals that are associated with the family. And anyone who's a co-parent or a caregiver can view photos and videos in the app. However, all of that stays private to only the individuals that are in the family. Even Julia and I don't have access to this, to, you know, whatever's being uploaded. You can add you can add photos from your photo library, or you can take a picture or a video and then upload that directly into the app as well. These photos can also be tagged. So if you want to tag them with custom tags such as a particular important date. We also have system tags like coming home or getting ready to deploy or at the hospital or things like that as well. Just a little bit more information. So if you want to learn more about Babies on the Homefront, you can visit babiesonthehomefront.org and view articles and other things that are associated with the app. We also have a link in the PowerPoint, and you can search for this in Facebook as well, the Babies on the Homefront Caregivers Group. Now, this is a really exciting project because Julia and I are the moderators for this, but the Babies on the Homefront Caregivers Group is a closed community for individuals who have military-connected children that are 3 or younger, and the professionals who support them. And even if you have older children, you're also welcome to come and be a part of it, just knowing that many of the resources we share are geared towards that 0 to 3 time frame. But the Caregivers Group is intended to be a space for military-connected families and veteran families to ask questions, to share information, to learn about resources, and just engage with the community that understands what they're going through and can offer that support as well. Now, although Julia and I are both are clinical social workers, we don't provide any intervention services or therapy necessarily through there. So as moderators, what we do is if we see that someone's struggling or having a concern about something that's outside of the scope of what we can provide, we'll connect with you and refer you to, say, the Veterans Crisis Line or another appropriate resource to get the assistance that you need. And we know that many of you may have school-age children, or none of your children are in that 0 to 3 range. So one of the things that we wanted to share with you is the Military Child Education Coalition. This is a separate entity from 0 to 3, but this website, militarychild.org, has tons of other resources and information related to the needs of children that are older, so talking about ages 4 and 5 and up. So we would encourage you as well, if you're interested in learning about resources that are intended for older children, to please check out the militarychild.org page. Before we move on, I do want to say too, if you go to the 0 to 3 website and find the topics for military families, you'll also be able to find lots of other information and resources, like Julia mentioned earlier, that have been written by the team on the needs of military and veteran parents, and also some other tools as well. Okay. So before we close for today, we do want to give the opportunity for any additional questions or other chats that have come in. We do want to just thank everyone. We know that the strength of our military is certainly reflected in the amazing resilience of your children, and all that you do for your families is so important, not just for, again, the strength of your veteran, but also the strength of the children that you are caregiving as well. So with that, what I'm going to do is watch for any chatted in questions that have come in that haven't been addressed. And at this time, if you would like to go off of mute and have a question that you're asking verbally, if you can go ahead and press the raise hand button, and I will watch for that and then unmute you whenever I see that that you have got your hand raised. So if you want to take a look at the attendees list, then just make sure that if you don't have a question right now, that you unraise your hand. If you do, I'm going to go ahead and at this time unmute, but I'll give it a second before we start doing that. Julia,
So while you're doing that, Jennifer, I wanted to respond to a couple comments that I saw in the question pod. One was someone who asked about what about anxiety, and if, as a parent you're dealing with anxiety and that's an issue. So I did answer it in the chat pod, but just to kind of let you know, self-care is so important. And so the first thing you want to do if you're experiencing anxiety, of course, is practice all of the self-care strategies that you've been learning and working with your therapist. If you've been prescribed medication for anxiety, make sure that you're taking that as prescribed. And then secondly, if you're having an anxiety attack, you're actually finding yourself dysregulated, you're not able to calm. So have a plan in place before that happens to keep your baby safe. If you can and you have someone you can call to ask to come over and help you with your baby, call them and then put your baby in a safe place like a crib or a child-proof room with a gate until you can calm yourself down. Do what you need to, noticing 3 things that you can see and describe them. Notice something, use all your senses. What can you see? What can you smell? What can you touch? So kind of all of the strategies that you learned in therapy about helping yourself to come back after an anxiety attack. And then get yourself calm. Once you're calm, then you go back to your baby. As you're putting your baby in a safe place, you can say, sweetheart, you're fine. Daddy's having a tough time right now because I'm feeling very anxious. I'm going to put you in this safe place and to make sure that you're safe. And then I'm going to go take care of me and I'll be back in a few minutes. Your baby will probably cry, but it's more important for your baby to be safe. So do that and then get yourself calm. If you have anxiety attacks that are regularly longer than 15 minutes or 30 minutes especially, then you really want to make sure that you have that safety plan in place, someone that you can call to come be with your baby. Talk to your counselor about safety planning and what might work best for you and your child. So hopefully that will help you a little bit. And really, I suggest you to work with your therapist on a great safety plan. Another question someone had a comment that they had as a disease progression. One parent has MS. They have really kept the kids involved and communicated about what's happening, being honest and kind of sharing developmentally appropriately what was happening. And the kids have responded so beautifully and have really adapted with the disease progression because kids are so resilient. They just need to know what's going on. If we keep them in the dark, that's when they develop all kinds of anxiety and issues. But if we help them to know what's happening, to know it's not them, it really helps to make a difference. So that communication is such a game changer. Someone else recommended a great app. It's a meditation app called Insight Timer. It has short meditations not only for the grown-ups, but also for kids. I thought that was great. So please check that out. Jennifer, did you find any other, someone has, how do I find a posted recording? 0 to 3, it'll probably take about 2 weeks, but 0 to 3 will have this PowerPoint webinar on our 0 to 3 website. And I believe the Caregiver Support Line is also planning on that. Kim, maybe you can address that. So Kim, if you could address that, and then also Jennifer, if you have any other questions. I know we're at our top of the hour, so Kim?
Hi, Julia. This is Christy
Okay,
from
Christy
the
works.
Caregiver Support Line. We are planning to post the recording of this on our VA Caregiver website. And I did post the Caregiver Support Line phone number as well as the website information in the chat box. But if you couldn't see that, I just wanted to reiterate the VA Caregiver Support Line can be reached at 1-855-260-3274. And our website is www.caregiver.va.gov. Thank you.
Jennifer, did you see additional questions come in?
There's a couple of questions. There was one question that's come in. What about school-related behavior recommendations? A son that has behavioral issues and having a loss of
Yes.
ideas for that.
Yes, and I can say that really partner with your childcare providers to think about behavior. First of all, help make sure that your childcare provider knows anything that's going on in the family, so that you don't have to give the details, but you can say, I have more doctor's appointments, and there's been a lot of questions, and so I think my son is kind of sensing that tension. So you may see some things in his behavior. Please reassure him what we've been telling him is, Daddy has been going to the doctor a lot, but Daddy's going to be just fine, or Daddy's making sure that he gets talks to the doctor so he gets the treatment he needs, or whatever the family is saying, that the child care center is giving that same information. Also, make sure, usually most child development centers have not only the teacher, but they also have someone who kind of specializes in dealing when there's behavior issues. And so create together a plan so that you're doing the same thing consistently at home that you're doing at school. Make sure your child has something that helps them feel connected to you when they're at school, because sometimes some of the behaviors that you see come from that they don't feel safe because they don't know what's happening with you, that they're actually picking up and worrying about you. So making sure that they have some way of knowing that you're safe during the day by having reminders and having words that the provider can share that is consistent with what you are telling that child. And then work out a plan with your child care center staff so that you're consistent. So hopefully that helps some. Any other questions?
I have not seen any others come in.
Okay, and I'm not sure if that answered the question. Hopefully it did. And then I would encourage you to go on to our new Facebook Babies on the Homefront closed parenting group there, and put your questions there, because then people can respond in more detail, and you can have several parents kind of saying whatever the issue is. Like my daughter used to bite. And so having to deal with a biter in childcare is not only is it a little bit embarrassing, but it's very frustrating. So you can get other parents sharing how they kind of handled it and some of their ideas. So I encourage you to share that concern on the Facebook group so people can kind of share their strategies. So I think that'd be fabulous. Any other questions? Anybody have a hand raised who wants to talk?
I don't believe that there's no one.
I think we're going to close then, because it is top of the hour, and I do, if you want to advance to the next slide, this is also contact information for Jennifer and myself. If there's something we can do to support you in any way and help you get connected to the resources we talked about. Thank you for everything you have done and continue to do for your families, for our children, for our nation, and I hope that you continue to look for 0 to 3 for additional resources, and you check out the Caregiver Support Line, where you can get fabulous support through the team there. So thank you very much.
Julia, this is Christy. On behalf of the VA Caregiver Support Line, we want to really thank you and Jennifer for your efforts in this presentation. I encourage everyone to look at their website, look at the Babies on the Homefront app. I think, as Julia and Jennifer explained today, they just have some really you know, they have some tips that you can use, and everyone certainly is experiencing sometimes difficulties, especially as Julia said, with the added stress and difficulties in caring for a veteran. But I encourage you to look at their website. Feel free to call and speak to one of the social workers at the Caregiver Support Line. But Julia and Jennifer, thank you so much for your experience, sharing your wisdom, and all of the information you provided us today.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, I think with that we can go ahead and close. So I'll end the webinar now, and I'll just throw up here the, again, resources, or I'm sorry, our citations, and we'll make sure that everyone's aware of whenever it is available for you. Right? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.